I almost skipped the day that would become the happiest day of my life. My name is Walter Bennett, and I'm 81 years old. Funny thing is, I didn't know that morning would give me something I'd carry with me forever. I almost let it pass like any other ordinary day. It started like most of my mornings do now, slow and a little stiff, with the quiet settling into the house before I'm fully awake. I remember sitting at the edge of my bed, looking at the clock, trying to decide if the day was worth getting up for. At my age, you don't always feel pulled into the world the way you used to. Sometimes it feels like the world keeps moving, and you're just watching it go by from a distance. That day I had plans, if you could call them that. My daughter had invited me over for lunch. Nothing special, just a small family gathering. She said my grandson wanted to see me, had something to show me. I almost called to cancel. My back was aching, and I hadn't slept well the night before. It would have been easy to stay home, pour a cup of coffee, and let the hours drift by like they tend to do. I even picked up the phone at one point. I remember holding it in my hand, staring at her name on the screen. I told myself I'd go another time, that there would be other lunches, other days. That's what we always think, isn't it? That there's more time. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the way her voice sounded the night before, a little hopeful, a little insistent, or maybe it was just a quiet feeling I couldn't quite explain. So I put the phone down, got dressed, and made my way out the door. The drive over wasn't anything remarkable. Same roads I've driven for years, same turns, same passing houses. But I remember noticing small things that day, the way the sunlight fell across the trees, the way people were moving about their lives without thinking twice about it. I suppose when you get older, you start seeing things a little differently, even if you don't realize it at the time. When I got there, the house was already full of noise, laughter, footsteps, voices overlapping. It felt almost too alive for the way I'd been feeling that morning. For a moment, I just stood at the door, listening, wondering if I really belonged in all that energy. Then my daughter opened the door and smiled in that way that still makes me feel like I'm needed. She hugged me a little tighter than usual. I didn't think much of it then, but I remember it now. Inside, my grandson came running up to me, full of excitement. He grabbed my hand and started pulling me toward the living room, talking fast, words tumbling over each other. I couldn't catch all of it, but I caught enough to know it mattered to him. He had built something, a school project, he said. But it wasn't just any project. It was about family, about where he came from. He had pictures laid out, old ones I hadn't seen in years, black and white photos of people long gone, moments frozen in time that I hadn't thought about in decades. And then he pointed to one picture in particular. It was me, younger than I remembered, standing beside his mother when she was just a little girl. I looked at that photo, and for a moment I didn't recognize myself. Not because I'd changed so much on the outside, but because I'd forgotten who I used to be. He asked me questions, simple ones. What was I like back then? What did I do? What did I dream about? And I realized, standing there in that room, that no one had asked me those things in a very long time. So I started talking. At first it felt a little awkward, like I was reaching into a place I hadn't visited in years. But then the words came easier. I told him about my first job, about the mistakes I made, about the things I thought mattered, and the things I eventually learned didn't. The room grew quieter as I spoke. not silent, but attentive. My daughter sat down, listening in a way she hadn't since she was a child. Even the others in the room seemed to slow down, as if something in that moment had asked them to stay. And then my grandson said something I'll never forget. He looked at me real serious and said, "I'm glad you came today, Grandpa. I needed to know this stuff." It was such a small sentence, but it hit me harder than I expected, because in that moment I realized something I hadn't let myself see before. I thought my time of being needed had passed. I thought I had already given everything I had to give, but I was wrong. We spent the rest of the afternoon together, talking, laughing, looking through old memories like they were new again. At some point, I stopped thinking about my back or how tired I was. I stopped counting the hours. I was just there, fully there, in a way I hadn't been in a long time. When it was time to leave, my grandson hugged me. Not the quick kind, but the kind where he holds on for a second longer than expected. And I felt something shift inside me, something settle. The drive home felt different than the drive there. The roads were the same, the turns hadn't changed, but everything felt a little fuller somehow, like the day had quietly given me something I didn't know I was missing. When I got back to my house, I didn't go straight to my chair like I usually do. I stood there for a while, in the quiet, holding on to the feeling of that afternoon. And it came to me clear as anything. That was it. That was the happiest day of my life. Not because it was grand or extraordinary, not because something dramatic happened, but because I almost missed it, because I came so close to choosing absence over presence, comfort over connection. At 81, you start to understand that happiness doesn't always announce itself. It doesn't arrive with noise or celebration. Sometimes it waits quietly inside ordinary moments, hoping you'll show up. And if there's one thing I've learned, something I wish I had understood sooner, it's this: don't assume there will always be another day. Don't be so quick to stay where it's comfortable. The moments that matter most don't always look important at first. Sometimes they're just a simple invitation, and sometimes they're the kind you almost turn down